Welcome to A Drop of Silence, the groundbreaking podcast series that dives deep into the realms of controversy. Join us as we bring special guests who share their extraordinary experiences and offer unparalleled insight into history, today's news headlines, and the future. Get ready to embark on a thought-provoking journey where silence speaks volumes and the truth lies somewhere beneath the surface.
What time will it be when war is no more? When bullets are melted and the warships moor?
When you go to writers' conferences, you usually have a goal in mind. And mine, when I first went to the Irma Bombeck conference, was to learn how to be funny, because people would read my work and they say, "You're just not funny. This is so serious. Oh my God." So I went, and I was very lucky to meet Monica Piper. Monica is a screenplay writer, and she is the author of some of the funniest stuff on TV, including the original Roseanne show, Veronica's Closet, Mad About You, and for kids, was the head writer for Rugrats, and she won a couple of Emmys for that. When I went to the Irma Bombeck conference, she was there. She was one of the keynote speakers. And she got up on stage, and she was one of the funniest people I'd ever met in my life. She is the first person who ever made me laugh so hard I fell off a chair. But when you talk to her afterwards, and we did a lot of talking, we became really good friends. She's Jewish, and where did she get her humor from? And then we talked about this phenomenon that happened with Jewish people. There's always a joke in there. It can be the most horrific situation, and a Jewish person will crack a joke. And that's what we talk about in this, plus her writing experiences. And I hope you fall in love with her as much as I did.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Drop of Silence. I'm Pam Goldstein, your host of this series of podcasts. And with me today is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Monica Piper. Monica is an Emmy Award-winning comedian, actress, and writer, and she's based in Santa Monica, California. And if you've never been there, it's a lovely place to go. In 1980, she had her own Showtime special, No, Monica, Just You, and was named one of the top 5 comedians in America by the American Comedy Awards. And I really believe that. You make me laugh so much.
Thank you. But you're making me sound really old. The special was 1990.
Oh, 1990. I can't read my own writing. I swear to God.
1980 was the first time I ever did stand-up in my life.
1990.
And if I got a special in that year, that would be phenomenal.
I can't read my own writing.
That's
anyway,
all right.
You have written for some of my all-time favorite shows: Roseanne, Mad About You, Veronica's Closet, and my kids' all-time favorite show, Rugrats, for which you won an Emmy. She also wrote and performed a play that I saw called Not That Jewish, and it was fabulous. So welcome to the podcast, Monica. How are you doing?
Thank you. According to you, I'm aging by the second. So
oh, I'm right there with you.
No. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Very happy to be here. I love Pamela.
So anyway, I have to ask, you're Jewish and I'm Jewish, and it's always, everything is based on humor. No matter what's happening, you could be at a shiva and somebody's going to crack a joke. So,
right.
Everyone
know what a shiva is?
Well, it's when dead people die and everybody goes. It's like going to a funeral home.
It's when dead people die?
Yeah,
What is when
people
dead people
die.
live? Oh my goodness.
Well, there are some. You should read some of the stories I've been reading lately where dead Jewish people especially, come to life in the shapes of monsters. And you're like, what?
Yeah,
I don't
they
know.
come back to life if you're doing something wrong. Why
I
do you do
know.
that?
So anyway, what do you, obviously you're the queen of humor. How did you get into humor? Growing up Jewish, and
I
what
grew
was
up
that
in a
like?
very funny family, and I talk about that in the play. My father was, God bless him, the what I think the funniest man on the planet, except maybe Mel Brooks. But my father made me laugh 10 times a day. Uh, he was just funny, sometimes without even saying a word. We'd be at a restaurant, honest to God, when I was a little girl, and just for laughs, here's how my father sometimes would pick up the check. Okay, he'd go, "Mm." He was sticky, and so I grew up kind of with a comedy master who taught me without teaching me, without saying, now I'm going to teach you this, but just by example. He was physically funny, and he was also verbally funny. Um, you know, this is a true story. When I was a young adult, before I was a comedian, I remember having a conversation with him. I had already moved to California. And I said, Dad, I met a new guy. And he goes, that's great. Don't be bossy. I'm not bossy. Yes, you are. You just don't know you are. I said, fine. Could we please change the subject? He says, absolutely. How's the acting going? Because I had just started acting. And I said, it's going great. He said, that's terrific. Next time you're out with the new guy, play the part of someone who isn't bossy. That was my father.
Yeah.
So, in answer to your question, I grew up with laughter all the time. My mother was more witty, more sarcastic, very clever, and I talk about it in my play, in that to the Jew, my parents were not observant Jews, but the whole culture in our household was so Jewish. But I say later that I came to realize that my father's actual religion was humor, and my mother's religion was my father. So everybody just laughed a lot.
Yeah.
And I just, I couldn't help but have it rub off on me. But I
Yeah.
didn't want to, I never thought of being a stand-up comedian right away. I was a high school English teacher.
Yeah.
So,
And yet you shine at being a stand-up comedian.
well, thank you. But it took, in those days, you did what you were supposed to. You had to go to college, you had to have a profession. And that was something I could doubt. My father was all for it, but not my mother.
And what did your dad do for a living?
Well, early on, he was an entertainer. He had what's known as a record act, where he would do impersonations. He would lip sync to recordings before anybody had ever done it. And it wasn't cheating. It was, he was doing women, Carmen Miranda with bananas on his head. Yeah. And it was like right after vaudeville when the thing was to have a comedy act before the movie began, like at
Yes.
the Paramount. Anyway, so he did that, but then I was born, and he was doing really well. He was traveling all over the country, and I have articles in Variety that they wrote about him. But my mother said, no, now that we have a baby, she needs a stable life, and we have to get off the road. And, so my father became a booker for Ray Block talent. It's not very, it doesn't get too exciting after this, but he kept his foot in show business all his life.
Yeah.
And then he became vice president of Ray Block. Remember, Ray Block was Jackie Gleason's orchestra leader. And so my father would book Simon and Garfunkel and Barbara Streisand and Bob Hope and all these people for big events. And that's what he did. So.
Wow, that's amazing. I remember watching you at Irma Bombeck, and I have never laughed so hard in all of my life.
Oh, thank
And
you.
now, how did you?
Do you know?
Like,
do people know what?
oh, they know about Irma. Every podcast she ends up she comes up in conversation with so many people, because so many of us like either grew up on her or we've been to the conference or whatever. So yeah, everybody knows Irma Bombeck. But my question is, like, I mean, you just were bang on and boom, 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 boom. And I've watched a lot of comedians, and they're not nearly as funny as you. How did you learn how to do that? It wasn't just from your dad, or is it an instinct?
No, it wasn't. But I started out. I was still a high school English teacher, but I was living in San Francisco, and prior to moving to San Francisco, I lived in Chicago for a couple of years because that's where my parents had moved. My father, the company, anyway. And when I was in Chicago, I studied with Second City. So I was in their workshop. So when I came to San Francisco, I was still a high school English teacher, but at night I would watch improv groups. And then I was invited to join an improv group. They had kind of like auditions. And because I had already studied with Second City, I really loved it, and I thought I was pretty good. And though we performed at the Holy City Zoo in San Francisco, so I would watch all the comedians. I would watch Dana Carvey and A. Whitney Brown and Paula Poundstone and, really great comedians. And I said, I think I can do this. And so I dabbled a little, and when I had moved I didn't move to Los Angeles to become a comedian. I moved to Los Angeles because I fell in love with a saxophone player.
Well, they are kind of sexy, don't you think?
Well, yes, I guess. He's probably not very sexy now. A million years later, but he might be. But so I was working as a singing waitress at a restaurant where all the waiters and waitresses entertained. Katie Seagal worked there. Michael Winslow, the guy that did all the sound effects, he worked there. A lot of fun people worked there, and I would sing in between, running to deliver the food and everything. And then late at night, when it was just kind of the bar crowd, I would do a talking blues, and I would sneak in 5 minutes of material. And so I was really lucky because a lot of comedians, most comedians, in order to develop their act or find out if they're any good or anything, they have to do it at a club, a comedy club. So you kind of have to bomb in order to get good, because nobody's great their first time out. So, so I was lucky. I had the restaurant, and that's when I developed my first 10 minutes. And then I auditioned at the Comedy Store, and I got in, and she put me in the belly room, Mitzi Shore, with all the other female comedians. And that's where I met lifelong friends that are still my closest friends today. And I developed an act, and then I auditioned for a guy who booked some clubs, the Laugh Stops, and I started going on the road as an opening act, and then a middle act, and then a headliner, and it went from there.
Yeah.
So,
and then, I mean, you've written some of the really funny, great shows. Like Mad About You was just amazing, and Veronica's Closet I adored. Roseanne, her first show, was like, everybody loves Roseanne,
right.
but
before they stopped loving her. So.
Yeah, exactly. Before
But that's
she,
all right. I was
but
lucky. I mean, during the course of my coming up as a stand-up, when I was on the road, I was in Denver at the Comedy Works there, and that was Roseanne's home club.
right.
So that's where I met her. She was an open micer. I was the headliner, she was the open micer, and that's kind of the story of my life. But anyway, oh yeah, you can't believe who used to open for me. David Spade,
Oh,
Dave Chappelle.
oh no.
Yeah, Rob Schneider, Adam Sandler, so what can I say? But so Roseanne knew me from stand up, and before she did her very first Tonight Show, when I was in Denver, we met, and she said, "You have so much material. You want to write can I write some stuff with you?" And I went, "Sure." I was so bored. They put you out in the owner's house out in the sticks. And anyway, so we did. And I ended up going to her first Tonight Show shot with her. I was in the green room when she did her very first, and the next day she was a star. It's that simple.
Yeah.
The next day. So, we stayed friends for a while. Then she got so famous, and I didn't hear from her. And then I don't know, 4 years into her show, or 3 years, she called me out of the blue. I already had a child. He was 6 months old. And she said, she asked if I wanted to write on the show. So I went, yeah. So there I was. I was writing on the #1 show in the country.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I
just
know.
luck and good fortune, and I never take it for granted. So.
Now, how did Rugrats come about? Like every parent my age said, my kids were glued to the set for Rugrats, especially the Passover series.
Oh my God, Passover and Hanukkah, those
Yeah.
episodes, those were before my time. I got there, anyway, those had already aired. I'm trying to think when I got there. I was already, before I did, or after I did Roseanne, I wrote an episode. My agent got me an episode of a show called Duckman, which not a lot of people, it was a cult. It had a cult following. It was Jason Alexander played this duck who was a detective, and it was so funny. and great, smart, funny show. And they offered me a freelance episode. I went crazy, so I did, and I did the Duckman. So then I was in with Klasky Chupo, the company that created Rugrats, and they had a job opening. Anyway, they brought me. They asked. I wrote a sample script, and they brought me in and gave me an overall deal where I did Rugrats and the Wild Thornberrys. I went back and forth. And then during that time, I had written a spec script for Mad About You. And they read it, and my agent called me and said they want to meet you. So I did. And so I left Klasky Chupo to write on Rugrats, and then to write on Mad About You. And then after Mad About You was Veronica's Closet. And after that, they called me, Klasky Chupo called and said, we want to know if you're available. We'd like you to run Rugrats, to be the head writer. So I went.
So which episode did you win the Emmy for?
Oh, called Hello Dilly. It was so fun. There's the Emmy right back there somewhere. I
can see it. We can see it.
But anyway, but the main reason I left sitcoms and was thrilled to go back to animation was because my kid, I wasn't spending, sitcom hours can be really rough and grueling. And he was just getting old enough now where, he was into sports. I wanted to go to the games. I just wanted to be, 100% mother. And with animation, I could do that because I could leave, at 5:00 and be home for everything. So,
yeah. So that's interesting. What does your son think about all that you've achieved?
Well, there's a funny moment when, and I recall it in the play, where he was so proud that I won an Emmy that he made me bring it to his Little League game. It was like, I think he was 5, 7. Anyway, and so he brought it into the dugout so he could show all the other kids. Look, my mom won an Emmy. But this is LA, Pam. So there's some kid, well, my dad won an Oscar. So that was the end of that. But no, he's thrilled. As a matter of fact, I'm in a show now, currently. I think your group saw it, your JCC saw I Loved You Not.
Yes.
It's a wonderful show, if there can be such a thing, about anti-Semitism. But it's got humor too. I mean, there were my story, that was the purpose of my story, was comic relief. And my son hadn't seen me perform in years. I said, you should come to this, because it was close by one of the nights. And he said, all right. So he came, and he was very emotional. He was crying. At the end. He's a man, but he was like.
Well, we were all crying at the end of that play. That was an incredible last scene.
Yeah. So no, I'm talking about the one we just did.
Yeah, so am I.
Oh, yeah, the anti-Semitism.
Yeah, like that was it was incredible.
Yeah.
And
so he was very proud, and he said, because sometimes you just, you're a mother's son, you have your issues, you have your, your stuff. What's a Yiddish word for your
Yeah.
not Surus. It's not Suri. Your
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
and I think it's important that you see each other outside where you're in a social situation where he could see people reacting to me
Yeah.
that weren't his son, that weren't my son,
Yeah.
Anyway, it was good. He's happy,
Yeah.
he's proud.
Yeah. It's
And I'm proud of him. So
yeah. But even in your humor, there's always this emotion in there. There's always this, like you're tugging at somebody's heartstrings. And that was the thing with Rugrats. Every mother that watched it, the kids are laughing and the mothers are crying, kind of thing, because it's so emotional.
well, we cared deeply about the parents. It wasn't a show just for kids, but kids loved it. It was like their version of Friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those characters, it's like a kiddie version of Friends. But as a writer, I love to bring the funny, as funny as it can get. But I also always liked a little heart, a little
Yeah.
something to tug there.
Yeah. So, who influenced you the most in writing? Like, which comedian, which comedic writer was the one that influenced you the most?
Oh gosh, Irma Bombet for sure. Her take on real life. As a matter of fact, sorry for bending here, but here's the cup I got at the workshop.
I
It
got
says
that one too.
it says if you can't make it better, you can laugh
Laugh
at
at
it.
it.
And
Yeah.
that's my motto in life. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
You can't make
Yeah.
it better, you can laugh at it. So
Yeah.
she did as a writer. Fran Lebowitz, actually, I think she's really smart and funny. Um, David Sedaris, I think he's fabulous storyteller, and then comedians. I would have to say Richard Pryor above anybody else because he's so certain. A lot of people can't get past the language.
Yeah.
They can't get. You just have to get past the language, the dirty, whatever. Get past that. He's so brilliant because, see, certain comedians, they're very clever, very smart, very clever, and they'll come out with a great joke. But once you've heard that joke 2 or 3 times, you're not going to laugh as hard. But when you have a comedian who's physically funny and becomes characters that are funny, you're going to laugh every single time.
Yeah.
And that's what Richard Pryor, and believe it or not, Dana Carvey. A lot of people just think of Dana as Wayne's World or the church lady. If you see his stand-up, oh my God. I mean, very few comedians make me laugh out loud every single time. Dana Carvey is one. Richard Pryor obviously was one. And I don't know. I mean, there's lots of comedians who I admire and adore. I don't know Wendy Liebman. She's always at the Irma workshop.
Yes. Yeah.
She's one of my closest friends and one of my favorite comedians ever. I mean, she's just we're night and day as I'm a storyteller, and I get physical. She's got these fabulous one-liners that are just brilliant. So
I
anyway,
was going to say the one-liners out of that woman are incredible.
incredible. What
Yeah.
she said the other, she said, my weight fluctuates, so I have to. Oh God, I don't want to screw up one of her great jokes. She goes, like I have two black my weight fluctuates. So I have two cute little black dresses. One has spaghetti straps and the other has lasagna straps. She's just, she makes me laugh.
Oh, God, yeah. One of the, like, over the years, like, I keep looking at, like, when people are the most depressed, seems to be when comedy comes to for the front. Like the most, it comes to the fore the most. Like, I'm thinking of people like Red Skeleton, which is just silly nonsense, and all of those people, Bob Hope and all of them, especially, and he carried people through lots of wars.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Like, what is?
If I don't know, there's so much going on in my play, but if you recall, and I even do this in Find the Funny, in the motivational thing that I do, it's like when we were sitting Shiva, my father and I, for my mother, my parents were married 50 years. And my father, who's always the funniest thing, I've never seen him look like he was broken. I've never seen my father look broken. And I said, Dad, oh, we were sitting Shiva, and this woman, Gladys, comes to the Shiva. She's a neighbor in the apartment building, and she's carrying a brisket. She's got the brisket in her arms, and she says to my father, Roy, if there is anything I could do, anything at all, darling, don't hesitate to call, the neighbor. So now it's later, everybody's left, and we're putting the arugula and the cold cuts and away. And I said, Dad, we need to laugh. We looked around, my mother's touches are everywhere in the apartment. I said, Dad, we need to laugh. I said, let's play. Let's, because we used to do that all the time when I was growing up. We'd sit in his den, we'd make fun of commercials, we'd always find something to laugh about. And I said, okay, how about let's imagine the next time Gladys comes by with the brisket, with another brisket, and she asks if there's anything she could do. We think of some really stupid stuff for her to do. So my father thinks for a minute, he laughed. He said, all right, you be Gladys. So we're acting it out. We're sitting Shiva and we're doing this. And I said, Roy, if there's anything I could do, oh, by the way, and she's batting her eyelashes like, so you're single now. So anyway, I said, if there's anything I could do, just hesitate. Don't hesitate to call. He said, well, actually, Gladys, there is something you can do. I just sold my car to a lovely Czechoslovakian gentleman who doesn't speak English. Could you please take him to the DMV and help him transfer the ownership? Mm-hmm. She's like, what? So we laughed,
Yeah.
I call it laughing in the face of the dark stuff.
Yeah. I think Jews are really good at that.
Well, the thing is, the minute you can laugh, it doesn't mean you're still not grieving. You're still grieving. But the minute you can laugh, at some point you're going to be okay. That's what laughter tells you, mm-hmm. that you're going to be okay. Because you're able to laugh at this. And Jews are very good at finding, right now, the situation, it's hard to find something to laugh at right now. But at some point.
I'll get them. So out of all the characters that you've written for and all the movies, well, not the movies, the TV shows, sitcoms and things that you've written for, who was your favorite character to write?
Well, I have two. I love writing for Paul Reiser for Mad About You because I knew his voice so well. And I could hear it. I knew him as a stand-up comedian, and I knew that character so well because I loved that show. That show, I mean, I just loved Mad About You. It's so funny.
Yeah, I loved it.
And so well written, and the characters are so great. So I love writing for him. But I also loved writing for Chucky on Rugrats. I
Yeah.
just love him. Gee, Tommy, you sure are my bestest friend. You know, gee, Tommy, see that big hairy ape coming toward us? Please tell me it's a guy in a gorilla suit. You know, he was always he's just precious to me. I
Yeah.
love him.
Yeah. So now you're doing these plays.
Well,
And
these they're not, it used to be Jewish Women's Theater, now it's called The Braid.
yeah.
And it's storytelling. It's
Okay.
not a play with a beginning, middle, and
Yeah.
an end. You
It's
saw
not a
it.
play.
It's a theme, and then it's 5 actors doing beautiful stories that other writers have written. In my case, I wrote my pieces, but so it's an opportunity for some of the top writers in town to write a piece that's only less than 10 minutes long, usually about 7 or 8 minutes, and to watch an actor bring your story to life. And they've been doing that since 2007. I joined them in 2008. And I did all those stories that I wrote for them eventually became Not That Jewish. I
Yeah.
mean, I deconstructed them all, found a really great arc that meant something to me, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I deconstructed those stories and put a piece of that one there and a piece of that one there. And so that's what The Braid is famous for, and that's what they do. And they
I
just bring contemporary Jewish stories
yeah.
to life, and their mission is to dispel Jewish stereotypes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I absolutely loved that play, but I also really enjoyed Not That Jewish. I
Thank,
thought that was such a great show.
thank you.
Are you still doing it or?
We did it in LA for 16 months, and then it was brought to off Broadway, really close to Broadway, a block from real Broadway, and it was there for 200 performances, and then we brought it back to LA for 9 more months, and it was sold out. It just kept selling out. So I took a break from it to see if I could write something new, what I wanted to do. There's an animated movie a feature that I've been wanting to write for a long time that I've outlined and with a writing partner, and I really want to put my energy into that. But now people are ever since I did that story in this current
Yeah.
I love Jew not. Um, that is from Not That Jewish, that story. And so people are now talking about wanting to bring it back. So we'll see, but I kind of want to plunge myself into this movie.
I
But
know. See, you're busy. Your mind is going.
I'm
So
busy.
now The Braid, they're putting on a play in March.
It's not a play again.
Well, I mean,
It's a salon.
it's what's it called? A salon?
Salon theater.
Salon theater.
Theater is beautifully written stories with fabulous actors, no props, no costumes, no scenery. It's just, you saw how we did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, you saw it on Zoom.
Yeah.
Live, it's different. We're all seated on stools, and we get up and engage with each other and sit back down, and it's very beautifully choreographed. And the one in March, I'm not in the one in March. It's called Yearning to Breathe Free, I believe. It's all powerful stories of people who have immigrated here, Jews who have immigrated here. But it's not just, every story isn't just, I'm Jewish, I'm Jewish, I'm Jewish, I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
You know, it's really different points of view. And not only that, but our allies, you know, non-Jews, it's non-Jews as well. And non-Jews love these salons, because what everyone realizes is it's not necessarily always about just the Jewish experience. Many times it's the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're a human, I'm a human.
Yeah.
We've all felt love, we've all felt grief, we've all felt anger, you know. Anyway, so
yeah, I remember the group I was sitting with when we were watching that. There wasn't a dry eye in the group half the time. The other half, we were laughing and falling off our seats. But then the other half, you're sitting there sobbing like a baby.
I know. The same with my play. They say, people say they stop crying long enough to laugh, and then stop laughing long enough to cry. And yeah, that's the braid is known for that, to bring.
It's really great.
But it's always mixing up the sadness with the humor, because that's the Jewish life.
Yeah. So watching comedians in this day and age, I mean, with Trump and with the refugees and with October 7th and all of that, they don't seem as funny to me. They don't seem to be able to find the humor in anything. Have you found that, or is that just?
I know this is going to sound terrible, but I'm really not familiar with a lot of the new crop of comedians, because people book me to perform for their fundraisers, for their galas, for their big yearly events. And they either book me as a comedian, or Jewish organizations book me to do, well, it's the same show, but I have two different titles depending on what the person who books me wants. One is called For Mish Verklempt and For Blunget. But to some people, they go, that's a little too Jewish. What else you got? So I go, Monica Piper, welcome to my life, which is what I just did for Jewish Family Services of the desert. But in answer to your question, that's why I'm not familiar with the new crop of comics, because I don't go to the club so much anymore. You know, I'll go to a club to work out new material. That's it. Okay, this is a true story. I'm doing a stand-up show on Zoom, and you know how you can see everybody in their little boxes, all comfy at home? Like, you know, it's like weird Hollywood squares, right? It's like, I'll take the couple in bed eating pizza in their pajamas for the block. So anyway, there's, in one of the boxes, I see a guy and his dog, and they're sitting in a big easy chair, giant easy chair, like a love seat kind of thing. And they're both sitting up watching the show, the guy and the dog. So then the guy gets up to go do something. Now it's just the dog. The dog is watching me do stand up. He's going, yeah. So I said to everybody, I said, I don't know if anybody can see, but if you scroll through your little gallery boxes there, you're going to see there's a dog watching me do stand-up. So I try to please everyone all the time. So I did a joke for the dog. I said, okay, I'm going to do a joke. There's a joke for you. Some stupid joke, 2 fleas walk out of a bar. One said, you want to walk home or take the dog? So, ha ha ha. And then the dog immediately gets up and leaves. So he left.
Oh, that's funny.
You can't please everyone all the time.
Yeah,
What I'm
yeah.
trying to say here. All right.
Okay. So just I don't know. I'm watching the latest comedians, and they just don't seem to be able to find anything funny
Well,
to talk about now. Like it's
I think, I don't know. Where do you watch them? Where are you watching them? On YouTube or what?
no, they have these comedy shows on TV. I maybe you don't have them in the United States, but in Canada we have Comedy Hour, and it's all these stand-up comedians from all over Canada that are doing these shticks. And I
Right.
go, okay, they're not being funny. Like it's different.
It's like some people are too hip for the room. Their jokes are so inside that only 5 people get them. I don't know, and a lot of them are just still a lot of the women are really dirty.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that. But my dear friend Carol Montgomery in New York has started something fabulous called Women of a Certain Age, Funny Women of a Certain Age. And she has these shows that are now touring. They've already done 3 specials on Showtime. And it's all women over 50, and they're very funny. And so she's bringing back, this whole idea. There's this whole idea that women my age can't possibly be funny anymore. It's so ridiculous. But she's out there really dispelling that myth. So I'm excited, to see what's these tried and true comedians with tried and true funny material. See, I'm a writer, but I'm also a comedian, and they're actually the same. I mean, you have to write a joke, write it, not just some idea. I get I'm uncomfortable when I see a comedian up there going, yeah, and this happened, and it was then I did blah blah, then I went over there and I'm going to, in my mind, when you wrote this joke, did you write 100 times in your joke? Did you write I know, did you actually write that on the paper when you constructed this joke? I mean, I'll agonize over a syllable. Is it funnier if it ends on a 3-syllable word or a 2-syllable word? Because comedy is like jazz, it's rhythm. It's so I don't want to, and now I sound like, I do sound like an old lady, like, get off my lawn. Use good grammar. I was in a Starbucks the other day, and the barista gave me my drink, and she rang it up, and I said, may I have a receipt, please? And she said, awesome. Really? That's awesome? In a job where you see 6,000 receipts every day, that one was awesome, struck you with awe. Anyway, that's me being, I was an English teacher. What can I tell you?
I was watching Louder Milk the other day. And have you watched Louder Milk?
No, but I've heard it's funny.
Yeah, there's this one scene where it's the young girl, and she's a Starbucks girl, and she talks like, wow, that affected voice, and he makes fun of her. It's driving him crazy that she talks
It
like
drives
that.
me crazy. I honestly wanted to. There was a pharmaceutical company that I actually wanted to write them a letter. Why did you pick a spokesperson for your commercials who I can't listen to? She would go, and then it's really good for your dental.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. See, it makes me sound so old. By the way, before I forget, you're in Toronto, right?
Windsor,
Oh.
Ontario, right across from Detroit.
Oh, right, Windsor, Ontario, right. Because I saw something that said Toronto, America, anyway.
Yeah.
Never mind.
No, it's Windsor.
I'm a huge hockey fan.
Oh, are you? Who's your favorite team?
My Kings.
Oh.
Not doing well right
See,
now.
if you live in Windsor, you've got a choice. It could be the Detroit Red Wings, it could be the Toronto Maple Leafs, or it could be the Montreal.
Right.
And so that's why we ask, who's your team? Because you never know.
My team is the LA Kings. But when I went to Toronto, I did a show there. I went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, and
oh yes,
it was great. But yeah.
But we digress.
Okay. Yeah.
But not that Jewish. When can anybody see this? Is this like on YouTube now or anything like that? Can they come and see it somewhere?
Nope, not at the moment. Have to. We filmed it, but just for archival purposes.
Yeah.
If our goal is to literally get out there and fill a theater and
be funny
and have people laughing together, communally. That's what's different about that. The show you saw on Zoom, they had to mute the audience because the last thing you want while you're telling a heartbreaking story is for someone to go, "It's in the kitchen, Harry." You don't want that. So we mute the audience, but it kills me because my story is full of laughs.
Yeah.
And one of the beautiful things about the placement, the direction is so good for these. Susan Morgenstern is our director, and she's fabulous. And so they have that gut-wrenching story right before mine about October 7th. And when someone says, "How does it feel to be Jewish?" And this is the answer she wishes she told her. And everyone is like, "Oh,
I know."
And then to be able to laugh, the comic relief when I tell my story, it's the thing that you don't get on Zoom, even though in many ways Zoom is great because you're so focused on that one performer and those words. But the one thing you don't get is the whole community laughing at the same time together in a room, and that relief, that release, So anyway. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me, Monica. It's always such a pleasure. I end up giggling and laughing and getting all goofy all the time when I'm around you.
Get your JCC to book me.
I'm trying. God knows I'm trying.
Monica Piper, welcome to my life. It's stand up and storytelling. They don't have to book Not That Jewish. Just book me.
And if you do write that kids show, let me know.
Oh, I will.
I hope you do, because you shine at that.
Oh, thank you.
You really do. My
thank
kids.
You're so nice. Can you move in with me and tell me?
Well, come on and live here. I've got a spare room with a bathroom, an ensuite bathroom.
Oh, that could just literally do the trick. Okay, because we only have one bathroom here and it's driving me crazy.
Well, thank you
Anyway,
so much, Monica.
thank
Keep
you
in
for having
touch.
me. I will. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Okay, bye.
What time will it be when war is no more? When bullets are melted and the warships moor.
This podcast is brought to you by Unbreakable Bindings Publishing Company. Executive produced by Lori Baldassi, produced by Ryan Richardson, hosted by Pam Goldstein.